What's up, guys? How's it going? The overhit. How's everybody doing? The Ant-Man in the house. What's up?
I'm a little bit under the weather, but I'm battling through it. Maybe it's from watching this offense try and function for the last 3 months, but that's a whole nother discussion that I'm sure we'll get into tonight.
You're sick of it, like just about everybody else is. But shout out to people in the chat, as always, hanging out. Tuesday night hangout, recapping the game, getting into the latest news. Like Anthony said there, talking about everything else, get to the other super chats. By the way, if you have not already, scan the QR code, get signed up with Underdog. Shout out to one of the season-long sponsors. You see it there on your screen. Use code Philly Special. Get $100 in bonus bets. And, just to toot our horn a little bit here, we actually did hit on a couple picks. So if you were following, there was one of those. The current one on your screen is my play, which was the Jalen Hurts anytime touchdown, Jahmyr Gibbs under 62.5 rushing yards, Jared Goff anytime interception, and the A.J. Brown over 5 receptions, which was smashed. So the 9x multiplier, it was nice. It was funny, though, because you texted as soon as it happened, because not only did that one hit, but then yours also. I mean, we went 2 for 2 this week. Doesn't happen very often. We'll just say that. But we got both of those. And there's Anthony's play for the Jaelan Phillips, the sack. Jahan Dotson, obviously, with the reception. Jack Campbell with a ton of tackles. And A.J. Brown, again, with the receptions. So, I don't know. Does that mean that we're due? Does it mean a chance to win some other ones?
Maybe this is the start of a streak. We'll see.
Can we predict anything a little bit better? I don't know. Maybe so. We don't need the offense to be predictable, yet it is, and we will get into that. Again, shout out to Underdog. And then just, a flyer for Thursday night. If you're looking for something to play, Anthony and I cooked up the most recent one. Feel free to tell it. Feel free to pass. Whatever you want to do. Gamble responsibly, of course. But you got a Nico Collins over 5.5 receptions. Dalton Schultz over 38.5 receiving yards. Josh Allen to throw an interception. Texans defense is legit, especially pass defense. But and then James Cook, anytime touchdown. So 11x. Do we go back to back? Maybe so. We'll see. Scan the QR code. Code Philly Special. Get bonus cash up to $100. And appreciate them for all the sponsorships. Obviously, can't do all of this without their support, the sponsors, and you guys. So shout out to you guys as well. Creeping up on 147,000 subscribers. So you guys are the best. You already know that. But let's get started with these super chats here, and then get into some other stuff. Dylan with a 5 bomb, starting out right. This isn't probable at all. But bring back Brian Johnson. At least he knew the system and knew how to score points and use AJ. Plus, this defense is a Super Bowl repeat.
Yeah, I think if we're discussing bringing back Brian Johnson, we've kind of hit rock bottom, right? Because obviously they look better that year in 2023, but I still feel like for some crazy reason, I still think that this offense can kind of turn things around. They don't have to necessarily make a change at play caller, because we have seen those glimpses, and I know it's very hard. You have to really, really, really squint to kind of see these glimpses, especially now, these last 2 weeks. But hopefully this is rock bottom, and everything else, it kind of gets better from here, because it feels like every week I see Shil Kapadia of the Ringers Philly Special tweeting out, this is the worst Eagles performance of the Nick Sirianni era. And then that happened against Green Bay. And then literally he could basically copy and paste the same tweet after the Lions game. But I mean, I still don't think that they're going to make any changes in season. Maybe they'll do an in-season consultant like they did in 2022 when they brought in Marcus Brady. But even then, I just feel like with Scott Loeffler and Parks Frazier, I'm going to get his name right this time around. I know I said,
there you go.
Who was it? Press Taylor last time.
Yep.
So Parks Frazier and Scott Loeffler kind of felt like they're outside new voices to bring in on the offensive staff to kind of help Kevin Patullo. Obviously, we haven't seen the changes onto the offense that we would like to see. But maybe as the season progresses, that could be something that they could do, where all of a sudden maybe Scott Loeffler has more of a voice in the game planning or the actual play calling. They might not strip Kevin Patullo of his actual title as OC, but maybe they kind of dial it back, kind of like they did with Sean Desai. But then we saw how that ended up, and that just kind of really made things spiral out of control. So I still think they want to have that one voice kind of running the show, and then maybe they could strengthen a couple people under him. but I still don't see them making a wholesale change at OC in the middle of the season.
I don't either. I mean, especially while they're winning. I get the whole, the take of which the Lions lost. I think one game, but I understand it's like it's not all losses. They had won, they had put up some points, and then Dan Campbell goes, I'm taking over play calling. So it's not unprecedented, but when they're ultimately winning, I don't think that they're going to. Even though, yes, like anyone, everyone, it doesn't matter if you're pessimistic viewpoint, if you're optimistic viewpoint for the team. And ask that question. You had the great graphic there for the people have seen it, I'm sure, by now. But, the two people on the bus, one looking out the sunny side, one just doom and gloom. And it's your choice, right? Like, it's how you want to look at this thing. And it was a great analogy to be used there because that's where this thing feels like it's at. Now, I saw there's lots of comments, right? So shout out to you guys in the chat because the vast majority did seem to say, hey, I'm optimistic. Like, there's still hope. Concerned about the offense, understandably, but I'm optimistic because the defense, what they're doing is insane. There's not a better way to describe it, I don't think. It's just unreal, like you say, because even to the comment earlier about the drive efficiency, okay, well, they've upped themselves again. They've set another record because it's gotten worse. For the offensive side, defensively, it's the polar opposite of that. It's like with each passing week, it's like, are you serious? Did the defense just do that? Because all the talk was, yeah, but the Packers, it's kind of Jordan Love, and they've had their ups and downs. We've seen that earlier this season. But Detroit, hold up, wait for Detroit. That's going to be the true test. They will not be able to do that against Detroit. And all Fangio did was cook up the second best drive efficiency based on drive efficiency. The defensive outing, stopping the Lions 5 times on fourth downs, get another interception for a turnover. So effectively 6 of those. It was unreal.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to think about because we mentioned before the season the potential that this defense had to be even better than last year's defense that obviously put up all those great numbers, shut down the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. But now we're kind of really seeing it manifest itself, especially with the return of Nakobe Dean. Obviously, trading for Jaelan Phillips was a huge part as well. But I think those two players in particular, like last year, we look back at the bye week and we think, oh, once Cooper DeJean was inserted, it felt like the defense really turned around and you felt like they just took off. But with this, obviously it was later in the year regarding the bye week, but those two additions has really, really helped. The defense was already good, but now to hold back-to-back teams that are considered legitimate contenders to at least win the NFC to single-digit scoring in the year 2025, it's like teams can sleepwalk and score at least in the teens, right? Like nowadays with the way the game is played, to hold back-to-back playoff and NFC conference champion contenders to single-digit scoring is crazy. And to go back to the offense, because they've been struggling all season long outside of maybe that Giants game where they kind of finally put a full performance together. Everybody says or was saying you're not going to be able to play like that on offense and beat teams that you're playing coming out of the bye week, like the Packers and like the Lions. Well, I know it's not sustainable, or it might not be sustainable. Maybe it is. Who knows? But they've literally done it in back-to-back weeks. So I don't know if we could just sit here and say like they can't win like this because they have, and they beat 2 of the best teams in the conference. We'll see if they'll be able to sustain it, of course. And hopefully, like I mentioned, this is the rock bottom for the offense, and they aren't going to be scoring 16 points, and they're going to be scoring more moving forward. But I mean,
hopefully not.
The way this defense is playing, they have a chance against anybody because even if the offense comes out and plays terribly and leads the NFL in 3 and outs and puts up all these historic rates of you spamming the same route and all this stuff, because of how good the defense is playing, and I've said it before, the floor for this team is so much higher, whereas another team with this struggling offense would just fall off a cliff. Somehow the Eagles are still 8-2 and control their own destiny to home field advantage in the playoffs.
It's crazy, especially with the tiers. And I was trying to find the graphic, which we finally did here, for what we're referencing. And again, basically, so what you're looking at here is, and you can see it on the screen, but if you're needing a little bit of help to talk through it, it's week 11 NFL tiers. So this is defensive EPA per play and offense EPA per play, right? Efficiency, offense, and defense. Top right is good. The further top right you are, the better. The Rams are far and away the best, based on offense and defense. Now, just offensively, though, your juggernauts here are the Colts, the Chiefs, the Packers, and the Bills, according to, I'm not the one doing this, but according to the analytics, based on EPA per play. Those are the
two teams the Eagles beat, by the way.
There you go. See, so 2 teams, and then Dallas is right up there. It is Dallas week. We'll see how that plays out. But the week 1 was not good in the first half, and the defense started playing better. Defense is markedly better. The Eagles' defense is markedly better since week 1. So still will be a very strong test. Dallas, however we think about them, does have a good offense. But then you've got the Rams, which I already mentioned. They're very high up there, but the Eagles still managed to beat them, and the Lions, the Patriots, and the Lions. So it's like you were saying a second ago, Anthony. It's 9 points and 10 points for teams that it's like what's taking place, or 7 points and 9 points for teams that like are at the top range. Like, this is not. We can go back here and look. These are the bottom teams right here, like Browns, Titans, Raiders, Saints, even Vikings. Like, okay, you shut those teams down. That's one thing. It's these teams in this category that the Eagles have wins over, and they have shut those teams down. So, I don't know. Question is it sustainable? Now, the other part to that argument, though, is like you were talking about as well, is like the offense. They're going to get some better opportunities against some of these teams, because coming up in terms of, you got the Cowboys, they have not had a great defense. You got Chicago, they have not had a great defense. The Raiders, I mean, on both sides of those, obviously the Chargers, they're kind of, they seem so like hot and cold. Like, one week they could be looking pretty dang good, and then another week it's like, what on earth is that? So I don't know what you're gonna get there. But ultimately, there's a lot of, we say, and I know that people are probably tired of this, but like, your get right of a sorts, but if the offense can't, we just say it this way, if the offense can't score points in these next 3-4 games, then we have a much, much bigger issue than what we think we already have right now.
I feel like I'm getting deja vu, because it felt like we said the same thing going into that first Giants game, right? Where it was like, we should be able to get right. Like, this is where they should. And then they got punched in the face. Obviously, they bounced back the second time around, and the team looks completely different now than it did then, with the additions that we already spoke about. But I also tweeted about it as well. We'll obviously get into the Cowboys matchup when we do our game preview later in the week. But the Cowboys look a lot different than they did in week 1 as well. Obviously, they made a couple moves at the trade deadline, but the Eagles added people as well. Hopefully, Jalen Carter doesn't get ejected before the game even starts. That would be nice. So it's almost going to be like, I know that they're playing them the second time this season, but it legitimately is going to be like a completely different game. And obviously it's going to be on the road as well, but it's going to be interesting to see how the Eagles handle these next couple of weeks. Because like you said, they are like advantageous like opportunities for the offense. But at the same time, it feels like even me, who's been trying to be that glass half full kind of guy and say that Kevin Patullo can turn things around, and there have been these little glimpses. He hasn't been able to put it all together yet. And this should be the time when he does, but I'm definitely a little bit like skeptical as well.
Yeah, and we're going on week 12. It's kind of a similar thing. Not that the offense did not experience some things like this last year, but there were some more instances to say, okay, yes, but they've had more examples of, oh, hey, the offense showed up, and for mostly a full game and playing some complimentary football. We have not seen that to the quite same extent. There's also the case to be made sure that the Eagles' schedule has been ridiculous. And you can look at it from a million different ways on that. It's like, okay, it's just difficulty alone. They're really good teams. It's a first-place schedule for a reason. It's also but they're winning, right? So they have a really high strength of victory. But it's also the travel schedule. I mean, remember, the Eagles are the only team that has no back-to-back home games. Detroit, who just had to come to Philly, they have 3 straight home games coming up. We can't even get 2 of those. So, it might feel like or seem like a small thing, but you got to remember, like, to try to get into a groove, and if you're sleeping in your own bed and you're like, okay, hey, we've been at the facility quite a while, there is something to be said for that consistency and getting your body right and the treatment and not having to travel, and especially if there's any time zone changes and things like that. So it's a lot of things that add up into this, and we've made points to this multiple times as well, but it's like, it's not just Kevin Patullo. It is certainly part of Kevin Patullo, but the blocking's not been the same. They haven't been able to rely on that. The running game is not near to the extent that it was obviously for last year. You've got players that are giving half effort on too many plays, which is a whole other story and frustrating. And then you have some guys that shouldn't be out there on the field. Get these super chats here because we're teeing you up on this one. Aiden with a 2 says, LOL, bring in Dable as a consultant. We've talked about potentials. You were mentioning this a second ago as far as, just maybe the thought of that during the season. I don't think that they will. I get the thought of Dable as just, something out there, but it doesn't feel like his name is one of those. I guess there's nothing impossible, but again, I'm kind of on the sense of that side. The part that I was going to ask, though, and this was the other super chat, Vasto with a 2, and I'm pretty sure they know what they're doing on this one because they are teeing you up and getting ready. But Anthony,
ready.
How buns is Calcaterra's blocking?
Oh man, I mean,
here we go.
It's I said this weeks ago, right? And I feel like now it's becoming like
that's why
everybody else has kind of caught up. I mean, we were both saying it, but a lot of people on social media now are like, why is this guy out there? I think it was Shane Half shared that I think he had 34 snaps against the Lions and 30 of them were run blocking. I mean, what are we doing? If you're going to have him on the field, I get it. Like if you want to use him as like the second receiving tight end, right? But you have Cam Latu, who I know plays that kind of like a fullback hybrid role, but he was on the field for one play. And on that play, he blocked Aiden Hutchinson one-on-one and created the hole for Saquon Barkley to they ruled it a touchdown at first, but then he was ruled short. But you let that guy play one snap against the Lions, who, like I said, held his own against arguably the best defensive player in that game, period. And you let Grant Calcaterra go out there, and him and Kylan Granson are running into each other. Him and Cam Jurgens are running into each other. They're just tripping. Like he's literally stepped on Lane Johnson's feet multiple times this season and caused Lane Johnson to fall. Like he's completely lost on the football field. It just he
has to. I don't know that there's a stat out there. He has to have blocked his own player more than he has made physical contact with the opposing team. He has to have.
It's so frustrating. I feel like I said this in September, where I said in the offseason when we both said that they should have added another tight end and made like a bigger addition there. But the fact that you didn't even bring in just like some guy that is a good blocker but doesn't offer you anything as a receiver as a tight end, but at least if he can block, kind of like that Jack Stoll role that he used to play in Philadelphia. Unfortunately, he's in New Orleans, like on their 53-man roster, so you can't poach him from like their practice squad or anything. But I just don't understand it because Cameron Latu looks like a significantly better blocker than either Grant Calcaterra or Kylan Granson. He's bigger. Maybe he doesn't have the receiving like potential that these other two guys do, but you don't throw it to either one of the other two guys anyway.
No,
so
they're
what's
not
the
getting
point? So to me, it's just like first of all, I think they should just completely scrap 12 personnel. Just do 11 personnel. If you want to add another guy in the field, put Tank Bigsby in there instead of a second tight end, in my opinion. Just somebody who's
sure.
Because I mean, he can't be much worse of a blocker, and maybe he can actually do something when he has the ball in his hands. So it's crazy to me, and they're going to keep doing it because they haven't stopped now. It seems like his role is only somehow getting even better. But I mean, I'm at a loss for words at this point because that, along with several other things, I know the usage of the receivers and the routes they're running, it's a big topic as well. But there's simple things just as far as like who is actually getting on the field that should be like, if we can see it, I don't know how they don't see it. Like,
it's
this guy
obvious.
is not effective at all. It's not like a Brett Toth situation where he struggled in one game and then looked significantly better moving forward. Grant Calcaterra has shown you nothing all season long, and this is now his last season in Philadelphia, like on his rookie deal. So if he hasn't improved by now, what makes you think just throwing him out there is going to make him a better player? I just don't get it.
I don't know. I'm right there with you. There's nothing that you've seen on film because yes, there's other arguments that to be made, and even if it goes to a specific, like a one-off situation where, okay, hey, so-and-so player made a contribution here or there, right? Like there's enough to justify, or if it's schematically, sometimes there's things that go super in depth that, okay, fine, maybe to the average fan or to us, we don't understand because we're not in there. But like, there's way too many times of on tape, on the analytics, based on what he's on the field, the personnel groupings, like you're talking about, 12 personnel, in blocking schemes, everything else. There's no argument to be made. And I'm just fascinated by the fact that, again, like you said, if we can see this on the film, they're going over the film review every single week, and they're pointing out plays. This is what they've said, but most teams do this anyway. But it's like you're going over the play film. You're okay. Here was a good play. Here was a bad play. Your individual reports. How did you do? 12 weeks, like you literally have a player who is blocking his own teammates, who is whiffing on blocks every single time. Like, I mean, I put the clip up a second ago, but it's like it is a comedy of errors. It's so bad. Of like, how can you not get your body on one block and pick up one guy, but every single time he's going to miss the opposing team. And as we were saying a second ago, step on Lane Johnson's foot, block Tyler Steen at least twice in the game the other day, run into whoever it was. I think Kylan Granson, he just ran into him on the other play. It's not doing any positives out there, and yet you're right. It is fascinating. That's not, I don't know what the right word is for it, but it's something of Sirianni to decide, like, yeah, we'll give it a shot. We'll put him back out there, because it feels like we should for whatever reason.
Just one last thing on it too is like, if you were going to put him out on the field as like your second tight end, where he's like your big slot guy, and he's maybe like going to be blocking a slot cornerback or an outside corner, you have him like isolated on one side. I could almost understand that, but they're lining him up in line, and then having him as like the lead blocker, almost like a fullback, where he try and take out a linebacker or an edge player or even a defensive tackle. Which is like, what are you doing? Like, that's just. I tweeted it and people were like, "Oh, you're overreacting." Like, I said it was coaching malpractice, because at this point, there is nothing on film that shows me that having Grant Calcaterra on the field is a good thing for the Eagles. They have not benefited from it at all. And the highlight of his season is probably the missed pass from Jalen Hurts to him in like the middle of the field, I believe, against the Packers. Outside of that, I can't name a single play that Grant Calcaterra has made this season. It's so frustrating. And like I said, I've been talking about it so much, but now I'm kind of just happy that everybody's with me and we're all united against
there is, yes. And I always remember it once we get back to the chat, but Camp Calcaterra is on the field. He's got something on Sirianni, maybe on somebody in the staff. Because I don't understand. I don't know why he's there. His best game last year was the 0-0-0 game where he recovered the fumble, right, and saved it against the I think the Commanders game, was it?
That was the game we were at.
Yeah. Right? So it's like
flying out of nowhere.
No stats, didn't block well in that game, but he did recover a fumble, so maybe saved it on that side.
4-year career in Philadelphia, and his highlight is a fumble recovery. This is the guy that's getting almost 40 snaps a game.
He's the NFL equivalent of like a Tony Snell. I don't know. There's no words for it. Dylan with the 5 more says, fair to say Dickerson, Jurgens, and Barkley may have regressed a touch. It's a question, actually. Seems like Bigsby is able to get bigger gains with the same blocking and plays, which you brought up in the game recap or the takeaways, the PhillySpecialShow.com, or followed Anthony at DiBona NFL. Thoughts on that, actually? Two-part question, but regressions and also Tank Bigsby potential?
Yeah, so regarding Landon Dickerson and Cam Jurgens, it's just so hard to tell because it feels like they've been banged up all season long. Landon Dickerson has looked better in recent weeks since he came back after missing a game or two. Cam Jurgens still hasn't fully looked himself, but they also, the injury might play a part of this, but they're not really utilizing him how he was before, where he was getting pulled out to the outside, using his speed and his athleticism to block guys at the second level. So maybe that's part of him just not being fully healthy. But if he's not fully healthy, and that was people were saying maybe that's why they didn't go for the tush push in certain areas against the Lions, but if he's not healthy, then he shouldn't be out there. Like if you aren't confident in him being able to run the tush push, just put Brett Toth out there because he was pretty solid in his starts at center. So maybe they'll do that. But regarding Saquon Barkley, I said before the season that I thought his stats were going to take a dip. I thought it was going to be more so because they were going to like lighten his workload a little bit. But they're just spamming the same runs over and over again, hoping that he breaks one of those 60, 70, 80-yard runs that we got so used to seeing last year. And it's just not happening. He's had basically one really explosive run this year, made a couple plays like after the catch. But I said it during the game, and then I said it in my takeaway article. I tweeted it today. I don't know how they're not giving Tank Bigsby more carries. He should be getting at least 8 to 10 carries, if not more. It honestly seemed like they were playing a different game, him and Saquon Barkley. And people were like, oh, well, the Lions were ready for Saquon. Like, they were planning for Saquon Barkley to run. Whoever the running back is on the field, you're still trying to tackle them and defend them the same way. It's not like you don't expect Tank Bigsby. If anything, whenever Tank Bigsby's on the field, he almost always gets a handoff. So they should be expecting that too.
And that it's not like the Eagles, especially recently, have put up anything in the passing game to go, oh, we better be careful here because we're going to get beat. So, yeah.
I did actually notice on the All-22 today that there was a pass where Jalen Hurts threw it to A.J. Brown on the right sideline, and you could just tell it was like a predetermined thing. The ball was like out of bounds. It was just a terrible play. But on the left side, they actually had Jordan Mailata pulling out and Tank Bigsby running like a little bit of like a swing route. And if Jalen Hurts would have threw it there, that would have been an explosive play. So hopefully, like I said, you get Tank Bigsby more involved moving forward. He just seems like he's playing at a different speed. He's more decisive than Saquon Barkley right now. I'm not saying he's a better player by any means, but instead of running Saquon Barkley into a brick wall where he's gaining 2 yards, -1 yard, -3 yards, 26 times, why not put the guy out there he ran 4 times for 34 yards and had his yards per carry decrease from I think like 11 to 7 or something like that. Like give that guy more touches, and then maybe we can see the running game bounce back.
I'm 100% with you. I made the brief comment on the game recap video earlier today, and same thing. Like there is. I totally understand the argument. Now I don't believe that Saquon has lost a step, or certainly not a significant step. It's so hard to say because the blocking has been so bad, and to your point, they are spamming basically the same runs now. I don't know. Do the linebackers key in a little bit more? Do they have the safeties crash down a little bit more? Are they saying, well, if it's Tank Bigsby, maybe not. But in the small sample size, there's way more than enough success with Tank Bigsby. There's no excuse to say, hey, if we can't run the football, right? Because we've all seen it. There's very little runs that have worked, that have had success. If it's not working, but yet you have one guy who, in 4 carries, was picking up an average of yards per carry of what was it, like 9 yards a carry in the game?
At least 5 yards in every carry.
Yeah, and over the course of the whole game in those just 4 carries, but like 9 yards. Yeah, why not 8 or 9 yards? Maybe a couple more handoffs. The passing game wasn't working, so I would not mind that at all. Because again, there's other issues. Again, it's not just Saquon, of course. We all understand that. It's not just even the O-line, which the O-line's been bad. And it's not just Kevin Patullo. It's collectively everyone else. But something has to change. And you made that point. Everybody sees it. Everybody has said it. The Eagles are winning these games. But it does, as we've seen it as well, even going back to the playoffs, there were instances where, okay, Kellen Moore, there was some anxiety there on offense, even beating the Packers when we won 22-10. I remember a ton of those comments coming away from that game and saying like, this is not sustainable from other people, right? Just the national media, even some of the local media. Yeah, this is not sustainable. They got away with one there with the Packers, but wait till you go next week. Can they continue to do that week in and week out? And we're at week 12. They've got some time, but I mean, if you can get some other explosive players out there like Tank Bigsby from what we've seen, I am 100% in favor of it.
It just seems like such an obvious answer to like, I'm not saying it's going to fix the offense, but it's going to at least give you something.
Sure,
because Kevin Patullo spoke about it today where he was like, well, when we're on track, we've been pretty good. But when we get off track, either we get like negative plays or we get called for a penalty, we get put like behind the 8 ball and then we can't kind of dig ourselves out. And you literally have a guy that basically never runs for negative yards. Why not give that guy the ball on first down? And maybe you'll be in 2nd and 5, and now everything is open. Now you can pass on 2nd down. If you don't get it, you run. Then maybe you could tush push. Like you're putting yourself in more favor. But no, they want to run Saquon Barkley inside zone into nobody. He's going to get -2 yards. Now you're throwing an obvious pass on 2nd down. Now you're in 3rd and 12, and you're going to do a cowardly draw and punt. Like it's just they don't try to switch anything up, and it's just so frustrating.
It's the definition of insanity again, because they're doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. Like change something. If Grant Calcaterra can see 34 plays, Tank Bigsby could get 8 carries. Like just let's try it. Let's see if something changes. Give it a spell to Saquon. Maybe let him take some time off. Come back out and I don't know, just whatever is possibly going to help from the offensive side because the defense is. Obviously doing all the work, but can they continue to win this way? A lot of people think that we're about to. It's crazy because, and I shouldn't say a lot. I don't know if it's the majority or anyway, but I've seen a decent amount of comments on social media and even in the videos section, and everything else of like, oh, just wait, like it's only a matter of time. Like the Eagles are going to get smacked, and it's just like, okay, now we know. But it's been said for so many weeks. And again, we went through the gauntlet of the schedule. My favorite clip, or one of my favorites, was that I included in the game recap video was from Chris Canty because he was talking about after the game, the buildup was, again, it's the Detroit Lions. This is a good team. It's one of the best one of the litmus tests for both teams. I know that the Lions were saying it was their Super Bowl, but if you get hyped up to say the Eagles are your Super Bowl practically, and you don't show up in that way, or you just get beat so badly by the defense like they did, it should just be like, hey, credit to the Eagles, man. And I appreciated some of the Lions players saying that for sure. But for Chris Canty going on there and being like, how good is the NFC? What are we doing? We're moving the goalposts again. It's not the Eagles are still good despite even a really bad offense. But like, no. God forbid we say that. It is the NFC now is, well, maybe they're not so good. Maybe these teams are all fraudulent.
I mean, it happens every year. It seems like clockwork. Like either the Eagles are doing really, really good and then people just move the goalpost, or, which I'm sure we'll get into this as well, but like now all of a sudden the reports start coming out about this in the locker room or that, and like this person doesn't like that person. Like, even though they're 8-2, like other teams and franchises would love to be in this situation. There just always needs to be some type of drama or nonsense going on off the field, or the mainstream media says something, but it's just, I don't know. It's just, you could bank on it. Like right around Thanksgiving, every season, it feels like some type of drama, no matter how well the Eagles are going to do it, is going to be coming out of Philadelphia.
Oh, you're right. Because it was, I remember, and maybe this is why it helps me to remember, but it's like sitting around the dinner table with family, some relatives you don't see very often. And then the comments come up, right? You start talking about football, you talk shop, and it's like, hey, what about that? I don't know. There's some drama here. What's going on? We don't know. And yeah, right around the holidays, that feels like it's whenever these things begin to happen. It is fascinating that it's an 8-2 record, but Owen with a 5, appreciate that. Can't go one Sunday without ripping my hair out. Free AJ Brown, #AO.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure AJ Brown probably wants to rip his hair out too, but it's just at the same time, and I wrote about this in my takeaways article. One of the takeaways was no more excuses for AJ Brown. I mean, you can't say, like, send the post on social media, then say what he did on the stream, then like basically not apologize for anything that he said. Then he had the meeting with Jeffrey Lurie at practice that Big Dom had to orchestrate. And then you go out there, get thrown the ball in a big spot like he did against Denver, and it looks like you didn't give your maximum effort. And people, depending on what side of the fence you fall on, where it's like you think AJ Brown's a professional football player, he should be held to a higher standard, especially after you say what you say, you should be at least trying to make a play for that ball. Or they're the people that were like, no, his hamstring's bothering him, which could be the case, but if not,
sure, it could.
I mean, that's a whole other conversation. But I mean, then like you can't just do everything he did off the field and then not give your all on the field. It just looks terrible. Then there's a video of him, like Jalen Hurts is doing like his pregame hype up speech, doing his clap that he's been doing. You see all the players, and then AJ Brown is kind of like way in the back, like talking to somebody else, like laughing, like not even paying attention. It's just the optics aren't good. And he's going to say that it's a media created thing, maybe like where he's going to shut down, not talk to anybody. And people bring up like the mental health thing. But at the same time, it's hard to feel bad when you're bringing a lot of this on yourself. It's not things coming out of the woodwork. Like you're basically drumming up all of this drama. So, I mean, sure, should he have a bigger role? Should he be running a better route tree, a more diverse route tree? Sure. But at the same time, you can't be making all these complaints and then not following up when you get opportunities on the field either.
Yeah. And you do wonder as well, because we're getting this drama, these other reports, the source off between other writers of what's truth and is it that big of a deal? Is it not that big of a deal? And then you also remember too that Hard Knocks is capturing some of this footage. So, which I don't know if that's a good thing necessarily, but we'll probably see some stuff or hear some stuff eventually. That's like, okay, there's a little bit more that makes sense perhaps. But it's always just starting something. I do appreciate the fact that some of the players have said, like, no, it's not that big of a deal. We're fine. They're going to have to keep answering these questions. But you have a couple reports here of saying there's the frustration with Jalen Hurts as the quarterback, and then others that are coming in or entering in saying, look, everyone's frustrated with the offense, sure, because obviously it should be performing, but it's not to the magnitude. Let's not build this thing up more than it is and say it's Carson Wentz 2.0, which is what the take of D-Gun said after in the post-game show. And I respect I respect Derek Gunn. He's got sources. I totally believe that. And I'm not even saying that he didn't necessarily, or he wasn't necessarily told that by somebody in the building. Maybe he was, and he's just sharing it. But I that's where then you start wondering, okay, what's the biggest deal? Because look, it's also, you remember the Brandon Graham's comment, and this was after the Panthers game, if I'm not mistaken, of him going on the WIP show on Mondays, I think, whenever he'll get asked questions and talk about the Eagles, the state of the Eagles, and things like that. And he, I mean, very openly, like, almost too much, he came back and apologized for it, but very openly was like, oh yeah, 1-11, they need to get on the same page, and one's trying, 11 needs to give him some grace, but they had a falling out, basically, right? Like they're not, things changed. They used to be friends. He said all those things. And this was last year. We did go to win the Super Bowl. So it's not like there hasn't been drama or media-created drama and or some things of friction in the locker room where the team eventually figures it out. I'm just not buying it to the extreme of going, oh my gosh, the whole organization is, against Jalen Hurts. They're trying to get rid of him here because he's a Carson Wentz 2.0. That's like the most ridiculous thing I've heard.
Yeah, and the thing is, I feel like there's like two sides to this as well, where there's the group of fans that they want to pretend that just nothing's wrong. So like any negative report that comes out about the team, they're like, nope, that's nonsense. D-Gun's retired. He worked for Jacob Sports. Like he doesn't have any sources, blah, blah, blah. Like, I mean, the guy covered the Eagles for maybe longer than I've been alive. It's like he knows, I'm sure he has a tell on what's going on in that building. But at the same time, did he maybe go be a little hyperbolic with saying like, oh, Carson Wentz 2.0, go like a little bit too far? Maybe that was more performative, but I do think, and then Jeff McClain came out and said, who's a lot of people think is like the biggest kind of drama starter on the Eagles beat, where he came out and said like, oh, it's not anywhere near as bad as it's being like blown up to be. Like, so people were saying, oh, if he's the one saying that nothing's really going on, then there probably isn't anything going on. I think I fall probably somewhere in the middle. I think that there definitely is something going on in the locker room. Do I think it's enough to completely derail the team where they're going to be blowing it up in the offseason and they're going to lose in the first round of the playoffs? No, but we have seen this team overcome the drama that you mentioned last season, that when Brandon Graham said like 1-11 aren't getting along, all that stuff. But so there's definitely some kind of tension and disagreements going on in the locker room. But we've also seen this team overcome all of that, like internal noise, outside noise, and win a Super Bowl. So like I said, I'm somewhere in the middle. I think something's going on, but I don't think it's the end of the world either.
Yeah, I think we're going to be fine. But again, there's always got to be something to talk about. Unfortunately, you get some of the drama and extra things here. Hero with the 2, though, going to be at the game this Sunday. Go Birds. Go to the game in Dallas. There you go. Go Birds. Hopefully they get it done. It's a 3.5-point spread. It's a little bit closer than I was wanting it to be or hoping it to be. But we still get the job done. We'll have the full preview and the breakdown and everything later in the week. But 3.5, that's, I don't know. I would have loved to see 6.5, just more of a
Eagles
feel
are
to
3.5,
get that
right?
direction. But yes, Eagles are 3.5 point favorites. But still, like I was hoping to, 'cause if I'm not mistaken, I think the Eagles were 7.5 point favorites for the home opener. So, and I know home field advantage usually makes a 3-point difference. So you can make the argument, well, that's a 1-point change based on where that's at or anything like that. But still, I would have preferred to be like, hey, we're 5.5, 6.5, 7.5 point favorites. Just for the feel of what Vegas expects or thinks that they're going to do. But at the end of the day, it's like, okay, that they've seen what we've seen. And if the offense does not hold up their end of the bargain, then it could be another closer game that shouldn't be, but there's just the struggle of getting points on the board, even against a Cowboys offense. And then, yeah, maybe it is a closer nail biter. We hope not, but that's why they play the game.
I think, obviously we'll get back into it later in the week, but I think it might be closer. I think that line's probably pretty close to where I'm going to be projecting score-wise. Obviously, injury report and things like that will play a factor, but
right, yeah.
Like you said, they're watching, we're watching. One team's struggling, even though they're winning, and the other team looked like a completely different team with the trades that they made for obviously a much lesser opponent, but at the same time, kind of that momentum I think does play into it, and the loss that they suffered as well. I think there is something to that, like boosting a team and kind of rallying them together. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Cowboys made it a lot closer than maybe many anticipate.
And also, we're every team's Super Bowl. Every single time the team plays the Eagles, it's their Super Bowl. So then you heighten it with like, okay, it's Dallas, and they already lost to us this year. So yeah, I mean, as much amplification as they can have for the game. They're trying to, as best they can, not get swept. So you understand you're going to get Dallas's best shot. It's in their house. They're going to try to make it happen. But again, we should have the pieces. But we'll talk about that, like you said, later in the week. 10 from Brandon. Appreciate that, Brandon. The O-line is not healthy or winning consistently. AJ is not getting separation, no creativity, and the coaches need to scheme the best players open. Less talented teams do it with less, I think it's a double, but with less talent. Go Birds.
Yes, 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 yes,
Yep.
and yes.
I
There
mean,
was
look at the Patriots. Like you can't tell me, like, hey, kudos to them. They're doing great. You can't tell me that they have the talent that the Eagles do, but they're getting a lot out of them. They're getting a lot out of their players.
Yeah, and there was a quote from Ben Johnson, and I meant to quote tweet it and talk about it, where he was talking. He was asked by a reporter why he isn't scheming up more like 50-50 balls for his playmakers, and Ben Johnson
Oh, I
was
think
like,
I did see that. Yeah.
he said something to the effect of like, I'm not like I don't. You could look back at like my history. I don't really love the idea of like 50-50 balls. I want to put my players in like advantageous positions where they're not going to be like they're going to have better odds than 50-50 to make a play. And it feels like Kevin Pasula is doing the complete opposite of that, where he's just having everybody run hitch routes that stop at the first down marker. And you're not really allowing these guys to use their speed to get across the field, or these slants or crossing routes, whatever, like drag routes. None of this stuff that allows them to like make plays after the catch too. It's just all like run to this spot, stay here, or run to this spot and just keep running straight, and maybe we'll get the ball to you, we'll throw it up. Like, it literally seems like the Eagles offense is the complete opposite, where it's just nothing but 50-50 balls, whereas Chicago is trying to be a little bit more creative, getting guys in space on the move. So maybe someone shows that clip to Kevin Patullo and maybe it changes a couple things, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Hopefully so. I did find the clip, by the way. Shout out to Ari Mero of finding the clip. I know it's out there on the Bears social media and obviously for their press conferences. But yes, I'm not a big guy on 50-50 balls. Looking at my track record, calling games, we like to get guys open more than just throwing it up for grabs. That's not what we want to be about. As you said, polar opposite from what the Eagles have done. And, AJ's 135th or 135 in terms of separation. Not good. That's terrible. Like, I know that AJ's not, he's good, but I don't think anybody's gonna argue and say he's not the best route runner. He's not gonna be at the very top in separation. That's just not his game. But 135, like, what are we doing? There's routes that are choosing to not run the most efficient things. Shout out to, here it is. I think I've got the clip here, or the visual. Shout out to Eagles Eric. The Eagles running hitch routes at a historically high rate in 2025. And again, these are the things that we talk about. It's not great to be on an outlier most of the time. Yeah, there's a few that you want to be in that category. This is not one of those. These are hitch routes versus total routes and the rates there. You got the rest of the league in the NFL mostly packed together, not too bad. And there's the Eagles. Far and above. Just running hitch routes. Very predictable. And the biggest and most important thing, too, is they're doing that against press coverage, which means it's hardly any separation. So it's adding to it. But again, these things go hand in hand. AJ's not winning his battles as much. He's not getting open. He's not giving 100% effort every single play. You could guarantee it. Watch the tape, watch the games, see him in person. It's not happening. And the play calling are just super, super basic.
Yeah, I mean, we're, like you said, heading into week 12 now. And I know the first month of the season, we were like, oh, is A.J. Brown fully healthy? Is it the hamstring that's bothering him? Is that why he looks a step too slow? Now it's just like he's practicing in full every week. Like I said in the takeaway article, there's no more excuses. There's no way that this guy that people hold up to this top 3, top 5 receiver in the NFL, like, level, that he can't separate against Rock Ya-Sin. Like, this is a guy that's like a journeyman cornerback. He was 3rd or 4th string on the Lions.
Dominated.
And it looked like he was going against Quinyon Mitchell. Like, he could not. Every catch was contested. Even if he did make a catch, he was getting no yards after the catch. I mean, you're A.J. Brown. Like, it legitimately seems like he's just going through the motions out there. And I mean, like, I didn't want to be this harsh a couple weeks ago, but as he just talks more and what really bothers me is it makes the rest of the locker room have to kind of answer for what he does. Where Jalen Hurts said he was going to put a stop to it, but then you hear like Jordan Mailata have to talk about it, Landon Dickerson, like all these other players have to talk about what this guy is saying and doing off the field or whatever. So you have to at least back it up with maximum effort on the field. That's all I'm asking. Even if you don't catch that deep ball, I don't care. But at least try and make a play on it. Don't just stop jogging at the 35. Then you look up and you're like, oh, wait, it's actually coming my way. Let me speed up now. Like, that's not how it works. You talked after the Super Bowl about how you weren't, that wasn't the feeling that you thought it was going to give you. You weren't satisfied. Like, you want to go out and dominate and make the guy across from you hate you. Like, you're making the guy across from you love you because you're taking the game off basically the entire time. Like, it's crazy to me that A.J. Brown is playing like this right now. And I don't see it changing because I legitimately just don't think he's happy right now in Philadelphia. And I don't know what they could do because they spammed him with targets and he was still kind of giving like half effort. So I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah. And you know, I've seen the takes out there as well of like, well, he got his knee scoped, and AJ shared this last year, right? But like during the playoffs, previously he'd had the knee scopes, and then during the playoffs he was getting his knee drained once a week, twice a week, whatever it was, throughout the entire playoffs. Obviously he had that knee injury. So people saying, well, this is just a sign. He's going to lose a step, or he has lost a step, and the health factor, you know, you mentioning maybe there's something with a hamstring. But I really believe if there was even an inkling of like, okay, hey, AJ's maybe dealing with an injury here, the Eagles could do him a favor as well. Like he's having to answer these questions. So the Eagles could legit just be like, hey, A.J. Brown, questionable. Like, they could just do that every single week because at least it puts the seed in there of like, well, maybe, you know, maybe he's playing with an injury. So we don't have to ask these questions as much. He's full practice designation, not on the injury report. He was for the hamstring, but now he's back. And yes, I'm 100% with you. I mean, being there in Green Bay, it's one thing to see the film. It's one thing to watch the game on the broadcast, but in person, I made a point to be like, all right, I'm going to watch AJ. Like, I'm going to watch him on every single route because I'm curious. Is it what I've seen in the past, or are we going through the motions? And yeah, it was at least 50% of the time. He's just half-assing it. Like, I couldn't care less to be here. And I shared this, I think, the last time that we were on the live stream as well. I understand a point of like, I'm not just out here to get cardio. That's fair. Because Jalen very rarely even looked his direction, and the offense very rarely went his direction. But as you were just saying too, now you have a game where he was spammed throws, spammed his targets. Here you go, get the ball, and he's still not giving the effort. There's still cases of like, what are you doing? Hey, give me some effort there. Maybe AJ doesn't make that catch, and yes, it was still a close. You know, like he didn't blow by the corner and the one throw that I'm talking about is obviously the one he was at like the 35-yard line. He slowed up, you know, later in the game. But the A.J. Brown of old is giving max effort, and more than likely he's coming up with that ball or he's creating a pass interference. And yet neither of those happen because like, oh, okay, well, oh, oops, I should have kept running. And, you know, it happened in the Denver game. It's happened in the Packers game at the very end on that fourth down call. It totally fine to be frustrated. I'm not saying that. We've both made the same case. Him being frustrated in the offense, all the players being frustrated in the offense, that's 100% totally warranted. But to say that and then not show it on the field, I think that's the biggest concern or the biggest frustration, which is, you know, where most everybody is as well. So getting to these other super chats as well. Michael with a 5, appreciate that. Says y'all should ask Philly WIP if Jalen is worth a conditional second and third round pick trade. LOL. I hear Carson Wentz will be a free agent next season.
Yeah, we're not.
Yeah, we just move on from those topics. You know, there's some hypotheticals that make sense and is worth it, especially in the off season. I'll just say that, right? Like there's not always content. There's not always topics. There's not always legit hard news or, you know, facts to talk about and analyze in the game. So in the off season, when someone says, hey, you know, what if they do to trade this? Now, to trade your franchise quarterback, that's still lunacy regardless of the time. But, you know, they get out there, the outlandish takes for some of those. You kind of understand. When we're in the middle of the season and the Eagles are the number one team in the NFC and they're 8-2 and they've got all this other stuff, there's no need to fabricate just the outlandish, crazy takes and the negativity of like trading a franchise quarterback. But, you know, it's people have their own thoughts. They have their own opinions. That's totally fair. We can agree to disagree. Jay said with a 5, Dallas has a defensive front now. Play action, boot, a screen, crossing routes, patootie. Patootie is on thin ice.
I mean, we haven't seen much of that all season long. I mean, even
It'd be
the under
nice.
center play action that we have seen, it's just been like there's like two guys running around. Like there's not multiple options, or it's that little Dallas Goedert like leak out play where they get him in the flat. Other than that, there really hasn't been much from play action either. So at this point, like I said, I think they should just go heavy 11 personnel. If they want to use like a second running back, you could do that instead of the second tight end. But with Lane Johnson out, where Fred Johnson has to start, I don't think Matt Pryor looked very good as that sixth offensive lineman. Maybe if Willie Lampkin's activated, maybe you can kind of get him involved somehow. But I still think I don't think they're going to have a big role for him, in all honesty. So, but unfortunately, we could talk about all these possibilities and things that blatant, obvious changes that they should make, but they haven't made them yet. And everybody's been thinking like, oh, once they lose, that's when they'll make the changes. Like they'll get that reality check, and they'll make the check. They lost to the Broncos, they lost to the smoked by the Giants, and didn't make any changes to the offense. In reality, even after the bye week. So it seems like the bye week actually did them bad. Like they did poorly after the bye week on offense. Where they were trending in the right direction, hit the bye week. And now the offense is going like this, and the defense after the bye week is going like this. So
defense insane.
Hopefully,
level.
The offense kind of catches back up. I mean, I feel like we should just be talking more about the defense because talking about the offense is a little depressing. But
it really is.
I mean, it's the big topic right now, unfortunately, in Philadelphia. But the defense is going to be the reason why this team does something significant, like such as a Super Bowl or something like that this season.
Yeah, that it is. And there are comments for the defense, which we'll get to those. Dylan with the 5, though. Breaking news, Comedy Central will now be airing all Eagles offensive drives. So there you go.
It's lots of content right there.
It's just it's unfortunately a ton of content. So they might actually make some good money off of that, which is so sad to say with all the offensive weapons.
I know you got more super chats to read, but a little side project that I want to do is like all of Grant Calcaterra's missed blocks this season set to like that. Like if I could do that with all of his missed blocks, I think it would be.
Oh, I'm sure you could. I'm sure you could get that to happen pretty easily. I'm sure you could find those because they're posted quite a bit over social media. So it couldn't be that hard to Grant Calcaterra missed blocks and then compile those. But that would be the headache. We've had some instances of small bits and pieces previously, but man, it is frustrating seeing it time and time again. Anthony with the 2. I can't wait for the Sirianni Eagles 30 for 30. They could. There's a lot there. There's a whole lot there of documentaries.
Highest winning NFL head coach of all time, right there. Right, his winning percentage I think is like 4th all time.
It is. Yes. Yep.
It's crazy.
And you got a lot of people that still ask what he does here. He's not going to be offensive play. I mean, he could take play calling. I know that's been the he should take maybe because it can't quite get much worse. I mean, we said that back in 2023 with the defense and Sean Desai getting canned, and it was like, well, they can't be too much worse, and then they did get worse. So, it's not really the move for Sirianni because he's not shown the success of play calling, but I don't know. They do need to go to some of the basic things that seem so obvious that they could try to implement, they could try to use. And, I mean, even things that Jalen Hurts has spoken about. You got the takes of others saying like, well, yeah, but Jalen doesn't want to do this for the offense, or Jalen doesn't want to do that. He's the one who said, hey, we're not utilizing shorter passes, intermediate passes, over the middle. He wanted that. He wanted those to be implemented into the offense. And yet it does. It feels like they've kind of regressed back to, now I know the offensive lines have not been blocking, so maybe that's one of the reasons where they go, we got to be extra careful now because we don't have the block. We don't have the ability to run these plays. It still seems crazy, but it is. You're right. It's a max protect, run 2 receivers out there against 5, 6, 7 guys in coverage, and you know it because we watch it every single game. But Jalen's got all day in the pocket. He's waiting. He's rolling around, but you 2 guys on 6 or 7 in the secondary. Nobody's going to come up open. So, yeah, of course, Jalen's rolling. Finally, he goes out and tries to, run for 2 yards on the sideline or throw a ball and force it into 2 guys, or into double coverage when a receiver's running back to the sticks or running to the sideline. It's just the same old, I don't know, play and issues. It feels like on most every time.
It just looks so difficult for a team that has so much talent. They're just not maximizing it at all, and it's been now going into week 12 where it just seems like they don't know how to utilize all the weapons that they do have.
Yep, it is sad. By the way, I'll get to the other super chats here. 48 Wave, really quickly though. I saw a comment here in the chat section of where getting the clips for Brian Baldinger on the Eagles film. That's just his Twitter. Most everything that I find is on Twitter or X. But yes, if you follow Brian, he's got great coverage as always. But yes, Eagles breakdown on film and everything else there. So check that out. 48 Wave with the 5. Can't keep putting student drivers behind the wheel of a Ferrari. We need a dynamic play caller. Howie has pushed all the right buttons except for offensive coordinator.
Yeah, and this is where I kind of go back. I know we've talked a lot about all of kind of the mistakes that Kevin Patullo has made this year, but there are times where it really does come down to like the littlest execution things, right? Where it's like pre-snap penalties or like an unnecessary hold that had nothing to do, like no effect in the play, but now a 15-yard run by Saquon Barkley is called back. Or they had multiple drops last game, which was weird because Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert each had one through the first, 9 games of the season. And I think they both had at least 2 in like that first half. It was just like, what is going on? They literally just couldn't do anything right. And the one touchdown of the drive that they had in the first half was when they didn't target either one of those players at all, which is like, wait, you don't want to not utilize them at all. But it's just like, it's so weird how this offense goes, and it's so frustrating because it seems like they get momentum and then it's like a stupid penalty, or it's like the weirdest penalty too, like the Tyler Steen thing, where it was like that should have been an obvious call against the defense, but it wasn't, and then that kind of just blew up the whole drive. Like I could feel like I can name like 5 to 10 drives this season that like it felt like they were finally getting their momentum and hitting their stride, where all of a sudden it was a holding penalty or an offensive lineman gets hurt or a drop, or like they're just honestly beating themselves a lot of this time on offense, where sure, Kevin Patullo is not putting them in the position to succeed or to the level that they could be, but it also feels like a lot of the times they're making it much harder on themselves too.
100% make it harder. It is way too difficult. Does not need to be to that extent. Again, maybe the silver lining, the hope is they still have time to turn this thing around. The defense has been playing lights out, and they need to be, I mean, what, like an average middle of the pack offense? If they're just average middle of the pack, that's way more than enough. As good as this defense is now, they got to get these things right. Maybe some, lesser defenses, as we said, with Dallas, Chicago, the Raiders, others remaining on the schedule, Buffalo, Commanders, they can figure some stuff, or even just I don't, not necessarily even like a get right, but just like a, capitalize on, okay, hey, things are not as difficult. Now, maybe it's a little bit too easy and it'll get more difficult against better teams, but just to have like the confidence builder to go, hey, we're scoring points, just to liven up the mood, to have some laughing or some joking, some excitement from the offense, because the defense has that on the sideline. You see the defense celebrating, hyped, and everything else. The offense, it is 95% of the time like, oh, we scored. Like even when they score, it's just, whew, wow, we did it. Doesn't happen a lot, but we did it. We scored, and like you're just not used to seeing that too much because of how many explosive plays and what Saquon did last season, even if and when the passing game was not firing in all cylinders. But Dylan with 5 more. Imagine if we had a wide receiver elite like AJ and the mindset of Devontae Smith. Oh, wait, that's just Devontae Smith. Wonder if we draft a wide receiver high in the draft. Who knows? That's a topic for the offseason after we've hopefully taken care of business. Then we can figure out the roster status. They've got the guys. They've got more than enough, as we said. You make life a little bit easier. Yes, the players need to execute. The offensive line block a bit better. It's a lot of things coming together, but maybe they can get right. Anthony with 5 more says, can we start a GoFundMe for a guy to stand outside the NovaCare complex with a call better plays sign? Bonus, have KP taped to a garbage.
That's going back to the run the ball.
Yes. Oh, yeah. This time, though, it's call better plays.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe if I put together that Grant Calcaterra compilation and it goes viral, maybe they'll be like, listen, we can't keep putting this guy out there. All of a sudden, if his snaps drop to like 10 to 15 a game, I'm gonna say, hey,
Yes,
you're welcome. That was
I'm
me.
I'm all for that, or you've got your
I'm,
connection because most of the time you call Howie Roseman's move as it is. So, you just text text your boy.
should we talk about that, or are you saving that for a video at the workout today? Or I mean, we haven't touched on it yet, but I don't know if
No, we definitely can. Yeah.
I know you
I'll
got super chats to get to, but
yeah. No, remember that. Don't let me
I
forget.
got you.
But yes, I'll hit on a couple of these super chats as well, so we don't get too far behind. Angelique with a 5. Jalen Carter, Nakobe Dean, Jaelan Phillips were not in that first game for Dallas. Yes. Jalen Carter will be on Dak's head all game. It will be personal. Hopefully, it doesn't lead to quarterback hit penalties.
Yeah, I mean the defense is why I'm probably going to pick the Eagles to win every game for as long as the season goes on, right? I just feel like I can't pick against them after seeing what they did against the Packers and Lions in back-to-back weeks, especially if they're going to have home field advantage in the playoffs. Like, I really can't pick against the Eagles with how, even though this offense, it literally looks like they can't move the ball at times. Like, they're
They
just
do.
going,
It's so
if
bad.
they get a field goal, it feels like it was like a successful drive. Whereas before it was like touchdowns, like you should be able to score touchdowns every time. So this defense is just so damn
It
good
did.
that
I was gonna say it did though, because I was thinking about this as well. Like we went to the Commanders game last year, the Thursday night football game, and we were going into it saying or thinking like, oh hey, the Eagles offense, they could start scoring a little bit, get some momentum. Obviously, we trust the defense, but let's see where this thing plays out. And you remember at the game, we were like, what through the certainly the first half, but maybe in the third quarter, and it's like, are you serious? Like, why
yeah.
is this such a defensive struggle? Why is everything so hard? And, it's not been to the magnitude of this season, but there were a lot of moments last year where it was the same type of sense. But again, you go back to the defense and the way that they're playing there. If they keep doing what they're doing, I'm 100% with you. That is the reason that, you take this team against everybody because Fangio's talked about it. And I loved getting Decker, the Detroit Lions tackle, his take after the game, in the locker room, because there's some where it's like, hey, credit to them, the opposing team, blah, blah, blah. You get some of those from an opposing team that loses. They'll give a little tip of the cap. You look into the eyes of the comment, which I shared it in the game recap video if you haven't seen it. But look into his eyes and hear what he's saying there. That is a man who has been absolutely defeated and beaten down play after play by Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Jaelan Phillips, the guys on the edges, Jalyx Hunt, just could tell how good they were. And especially whenever he gets asked, oh, what was the reason, anything behind that? And he even says, he's like, not anything crazy they do. Schematically, nothing just crazy out of the norm. They just have really good players, and they rotate them in and out, and it's like the second string's in there, and it's still kind of like the first, which to me, I love hearing that because, we know that Fangio schemes it up beautifully, but when an opposing player is defeated that much to say, that defensive line, man, they are dangerous, okay, here we go. This was about the point last season where you really started to see that defense hit its stride. And, you keep it up, you get there with the offense, and it should be good. Damon's, I'll get your super chat if I missed it. I thought I played it, but I'll double check. You can answer that if you want to while I'm checking.
Yeah, so that's kind of what the acquisition of Jaelan Phillips does, though, right? And even the return of Nolan Smith is where now, Jalyx Hunt, who was your top edge rusher, is now knocked down to the guy that's he's still kind of the number 2 as Nolan Smith deals with the snap count restriction. But now you're bringing that guy off the bench where before he was your starter. So now the offensive tackle thinks, oh, Jaelan Phillips left the game. I can take this rep off. But no, now you're going to get 10 snaps against Brandon Graham, who's still, despite his age, he's still super strong. He obviously has that veteran mindset. He's going to know based on the way your foot placement before the snap, or just no, and he's going to have those little mental edges over you on top of being super strong as well. But then you think, all right, if Jaelan Phillips is on the right side against Penei Sewell now, so I'll get Jalyx Hunt against me. And I think, nope, Jalyx Hunt, just as athletic and physical and strong as Jaelan Phillips is, that's not any break. So it's funny though, because like you said, it's not like they were doing anything super fancy, almost like what they did in the Super Bowl. They blitzed a little bit more than they did in the Super Bowl, but they were just outright just beating them up. Kind of what the Giants did to them earlier in the season, where they just punched them in the mouth. It legitimately felt like the second Jared Goff had those 2 gloves on, it was like, oh, he's not ready for the physicality that this game's about to bring him. Like he was shaking.
He was feeling that wind, and then it started to get more physical. He was like, oh,
seeing ghosts like Sam Darnold in that primetime game years ago, where he was just shook the second they were getting that pressure on him, and it just did not stop the entire game.
I got quite a few Lions fans in my comment section for the game preview video going like, oh, stop it. Like Fangio doesn't have Goff's number, and we talked about it, lots of texting back and forth, but then even talked about it a little bit in the game preview. And, there's just sometimes there's a common denominator and there's enough statistics and knowing about, obviously, Fangio and what he does for the defensive coordinator. But it was so far to the extreme. It wasn't like, oh, okay, Goff had, 62% completion, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. His team lost, but it wasn't dominate. It was prior to, even Sunday night, it was like 1 touchdown, 6 interceptions, sacked 3 or 4 times, 1 fumble, less than 50% completion. That was before Sunday night. So going into it, again, it's like, yeah, I don't care that they're the number 2 offense in the NFL. Fangio did that against the Rams when they were the number 2 offense in the NFL. And I'm telling you, this Eagles defense is more talented than the squad that he had for the Bears whenever they did that. So, it's just funny whenever people... and I get biased, right? Like, I'm guilty of it as well. We're guilty of it as well. But it just felt a lot more confident with Fangio. But then you see it and what they were able to do. And, yeah, I mean, this is a defense right now that's not technically ranked number 1 in the NFL. But I would obviously, and again, this is the bias part, but I would take the Eagles defense over any other team right now because of the way that they're playing. And you can feel that not only the performance and what they're doing on the field, but it's like that chemistry. You hear Zach Bond talking after the game. We play our best football when all 11 guys are playing that way. Jalyx Hunt talking about the group, especially with the defensive line. Like, we go do everything together. We go to games. We go out to eat. We go hang out. Like, they're just doing it. And so you do see that get reflected on the field. And it's great to see. It's a whole lot of fun to watch, even if there's not very many points getting scored. It's much better, as Damon's here says, with a 10. Appreciate that. I'm sorry. I tried to get to these in order. I think I clicked it and did not show it, so that's my fault. But I don't intentionally try to miss any. I'll get to the next ones. But Damon says, I hate being this guy, but I'm getting real sick and tired of this Hurts slander. I have a lot more to say, but I don't want to go there.
Yeah, it's... Like I said, it feels like around this time every year, no matter how good the team is doing, they're going to drum up some type of nonsense to either discredit the Eagles, discredit Jalen Hurts. Right now, obviously the passing game is a little bit like the running game hasn't been good all season long. It felt like early in the season, Jalen Hurts was the one kind of keeping the offense afloat by himself. But now the offense is kind of obviously becoming more under fire because of A.J. Brown's comments and things like that. But still, when it comes down to it, a big-time game, I don't think there's any quarterback, and this might sound crazy to say, but I'm taking Jalen Hurts over anybody else. It just feels like when the game is at its peak and the biggest moments, the lights are the brightest, that he's going to perform better than everybody else. We've literally seen him do it twice in the Super Bowl. So you can keep all of these Justin Herberts, Joe Burrows, these guys that struggle to stay healthy and things like that and get all these regular season wins. When it really matters in the playoffs, I'm probably taking Jalen Hurts over anybody else.
It's funny that you say that too, and I think you tweeted this out. But it's funny that Justin Herbert had 81 yards.
You haven't heard anything about it.
No.
It's like if a tree falls in the forest or whatever, like does it make a noise?
Yeah, right. Does it? Apparently
if Justin
not.
Herbert throws for under 100 yards, nobody knows.
Can you imagine if Jalen Hurts threw for 81 yards? And, I mean, gosh, like 81 yards and the Eagles got blown out that badly. But just 81 yards, even if the Eagles won, it would be just madness. It would be everywhere. National media. But yet, Justin Herbert can throw for 81 yards. The Chargers get blown out the way that they did. And, it's kind of like, well, all right, we just move on. Oh, he had a bad game. Everyone has a bad game. That's what it is. No big deal. It is crazy, the double standard part to it. Bald Eagle with a 5. What's funny is they probably put Q on A.J. Brown in practice, indirectly admitting they know A.J. Brown is great, but in the game, they treat him like a wide receiver 3. Yep, they have battles, and we had it back in training camp. He was injured some, but yes, like they know how good he is. It's just it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and like we said, though, A.J.'s not given full effort either, so it does go both ways, but they make it so difficult, needlessly difficult. IBH with a 2. Will Carter be motivated to break Dak in half? Who was it that posted? Somebody posted on Twitter the photo of Zach Cunningham like flipping Hurts upside down. You know, that was a couple years ago, obviously, but the hit that was made on Dak, and someone's like, "Oh, this is what Jalen Carter's going to do to him." You know, cool. Like, I hope that he gets like 2 sacks, 3 sacks, has a dominating game. But ultimately, and this is also what I appreciate about Jalen Carter and the whole defense. You know, we talk about their chemistry. There's no individual stat chasing. You could have other guys on other teams that get upset about it or kind of like, oh man, and we had talk of that in 2023, right? Whenever defense, some players, Sweaty, making the comment of, yeah, we had some guys on the defensive line that are sack chasing. He didn't name names. I think that, hindsight being 2020, we can figure out that was definitely Hassan Reddick. But we, at the time you hear that and you go, oh my gosh, really? Like, not only is the defense not playing well, but they're also blaming each other and they're playing for themselves, not for the whole team. These guys are all about like, cool, man, he's got the sack, Jalen Carter's getting doubled. He's taking some other focus from the opposing offense. All right, Moro Jomo, you're winning. You're becoming a game wrecker. That dude might see the field better than anybody else with his football IQ, like the plays that he makes and the recognition that he has. But yeah, you capitalize on it, and he's been holding up as much, if not better, than Milton Williams was last year.
Yeah, Moro Jomo's been unbelievable this year, and I tweeted about it as well. I was like, people were worried that he was going to be able to replace him, but I think he's replaced him and been even better than Milton Williams ever was with the Eagles. But regarding Jalen Carter, I think that's one of the biggest things about him too, is like, obviously he gets these accolades and all this attention. He's going to get a huge contract, but he is also still willing to do that dirty work where if he has to slant inside and take out a guard just so Moro Ojomo or Nakobe Dean can get a sack, like, he doesn't mind, but he's willing to do the dirty work. And the biggest thing, I think, especially this season, is he's been like the Max Crosby of defensive tackles, where he just doesn't leave the field. He plays like 90+% of their snaps every game, where they kind of rotate everyone in around him. But him and Jaelan Phillips, these last 2 weeks especially, have kind of become like the mainstay players on that defensive front.
Yep. J-Doc, I did not skip your chat. I did miss Damon's earlier, but I did not skip your chat. I'm going back in order. I jumped way back up to an earlier one because I missed Damon's, but yours is still here, so rest assured. I've got everybody's in line, so I'm gonna get there. Anthony with Brandon first, and then Anthony with a 2. Ant-Man, please make that low light video of Grant, so that you've got one more vote of confidence on that. I think many people were wanting to see that, but just in case you were wondering, there's lots that want to see that video. So
I know I said I'm not feeling that great, but I might have to sacrifice and stay up to make that.
Get some rest, get back to 100%. But, at some point, I think that people would want to see that. Anthony with a 5. 1, they won't fire Patullo, but they need to get him Patuta here. Patata here. I don't know how to say Patata here. Okay. I think I see where you're trying to go with that. I may have butchered the delivery. 2, serious question. If not Patullo, who should/could be the OC in 26? #GoPirds, #BTA.
Well, if they go in-house, it feels like Scott Loeffler feels like the obvious kind of guy because he was a play caller in college, like has that experience. Parks Frazier's another one, but I feel like that would be a little bit more of like a letdown, whereas Scott Loeffler, you can kind of almost convince the fans like he's new to the NFL. He's bringing in like maybe that college scheme. And look what he did with Harold Fannin Jr. at Bowling Green. Like he can kind of make things look better that way. But outside of those guys, I mean, you would have to keep an eye on like Mike McDaniel if he gets fired by the Dolphins, or Brian Daboll's already been a name that's been brought up as like a potential target because he coached Hurts in college. There's been rumors that like they didn't have the best relationship, but then there's quotes saying from Jalen Hurts saying that like, no, he like basically taught me how to be a real football player. So who knows what to believe in that regard, but those are 2 names that would definitely make sense as far as like, see, like obviously they went after Kellen Moore last time, right? When they had to like fire those internal promotions and go in different directions. So I think they like at that point they would be going big game hunting, and it feels like Brian Daboll would be a guy that would probably be on the top of a lot of lists at OC.
Yeah, I tend to agree. It is funny though that especially this day and age, you get reports on one side, and you can somehow find a source or a report or someone else who can almost directly refute it, and then you go, Cool. Well, I don't know where we're at. So
And then you get the AI generated answer that kind of gives
yes.
you both in one. So it's like, who do I believe?
That is greatness. Yeah. Give me the recap of the scenario here. It's like, that makes no sense at
That
all.
just made it
So
worse.
great. Fantastic. Now I'm completely lost. Was hoping to get better direction there. J-Doc with a 10, appreciate that, says, I think the most underrated aspect is the off-the-field relationship between AJ and Jalen. They need to mend their relationship. Remember, they used to celebrate touchdowns together. They need to have a conversation.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same thing we've been talking about, but unfortunately, it feels like they have, because we talked about the Brandon Graham thing earlier, you know, and the comments there. It feels like they've gotten to the point to where they can learn to work with each other to try to win a game. But something happened and something thrown that off to where, I don't know. I'm not very optimistic that all of a sudden it's going to be like, hey, they have this conversation where they're best buddies again, and I don't know what caused that. They are willing to have conversations. They are willing to talk. You know, we had the report of being out in the parking lot and talking for a little bit, which was with Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown. But even the way that AJ told the story,
I forgot about that. Honestly, it's just
it seemed to, like, you know, the media narrative was different. Where it's like, hey, okay, hey, you know, Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, they're in a better place. And then AJ even recalling it was almost like, yeah, it was just kind of like a whatever. You know, we talked, sure, but it wasn't like a scheduled thing or planned thing. He didn't make it as big of a deal. And then you're like, oh, well, okay. So, I mean, it's better than not, but it's also not like, oh, they're best friends again. And again, look, ultimately they don't have to, because we have a proof point to be made of last season was the same way. They were not celebrating the same way that they were. They did briefly coming off of the Panthers game, starting in the Steelers game when they scored the touchdown. They celebrated, but that was like showing towards the media. I think you're like, hey, you guys think that we hate each other? Look, we're cool. We can get along. But in terms of, like, yeah, what we all remember for AJ's first year and a half, 2 years, I don't know. I don't think that's. I hate to say it. I don't think that I believe that's coming back, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, I know you got other chats to get to, but the thing that kind of caught me off guard or surprised me a little bit was when Jalen Hurts was asked about the strategy after the game against the Lions, where he was like, it seemed like there was more of an emphasis on like getting AJ Brown targets. Was like that by design or whatever? He's like, oh, that's a question for KP, meaning Kevin Patullo. Like that was a little weird to me, because it almost felt like normally when he's been asked questions about like this happened on the offense, so he's like, well, the offense is going to look how I want it to look. Like this is what we're like, where this is the collective, blah, blah. With that, it was like, oh, you have to ask the OC. Like almost like he didn't want to throw AJ Brown the ball that much. Like he didn't want to force him the ball, but
No.
he did, because that was the play that was called. So it's just like people say, oh, who cares if they don't like each other off the field, whatever. But like you do still have to have like a working relationship. And if now it's coming at the cost of now Devontae Smith's not getting targets because he has to throw at AJ Brown to make him happy, it's just, that's not a good like situation to be in either. I do think they can kind of put their differences to the side and be fine, because we literally saw them do it last year. But it doesn't also seem like it's getting any better this year either.
Yeah, it's, you know, I mean, it is what it is, unfortunately. For better or worse, like they've managed it in the past, but you know, it's the chemistry for itself. Simply Rec with a 2. I think WIP, except Rhodes doesn't watch the games. I mean, they watch the games. I'm not gonna. They're entitled to their own opinions. We could agree to disagree on some takes. I know some of it is just to be provocative, because especially in the radio industry, that's what happens. So do they 100% believe a certain take? It's hard to say. You know, having worked in the radio industry a little bit as well, like sometimes it is more just we're gonna get callers. We'll get people upset, fired up. You know, take a side. But they do watch the games. I mean, they are at the games. We can Anthony can confirm he has been at the games. They are at the games. They are there watching. But Damon's, I got your chat. That was earlier, but or later, but just getting to the super chat. So yes, I did see that. Dylan with a 5. Some positivity here. 8-2 after the teams we played is amazing. Before the season, I don't think anyone would have thought we'd be 8-2.
Yeah, I think I definitely had them worse at this point. I can go back in my game-by-game predictions, but I'm pretty sure I had them with a worse record right now. And that's one of, like, if you want to be a glass half full kind of fan, that's one of the things you have to look at too. Is they played as bad as they did on offense against two of the best teams in the NFC, and they still won. So now, if they're improving even to just an average offense, with the way the defense is playing, it's just like, why can't they beat anybody else? So that would
Exactly.
be a good perspective to kind of have as well.
Yeah. And I think I'm trying to say now, did I have? I think I had 7-3, maybe.
Now I want to go back and see what I had.
I know.
If you don't
I'm
mind me doing
curious now because I had. I think it was 7. I had 13-4 was the final one, but I'm trying to think of who the losses. I think I had us losing in Buffalo, just like a cold weather game in Buffalo, travel late, may not even have to necessarily win that based on the record, but I think it was Buffalo and maybe the Lions. Was it? I think the Lions would have been the one to maybe make us 7-3. So regardless, yes, like 8-2 through that schedule, 100%. Like, got to be feeling good about that one. As you're looking that up, Anthony with a 5 says, wasn't this the same team that had a weirdly high red zone scoring percentage? What the F happened? P.S. I hope someone stands on the star like T.O. this week. That'd be fun. Create a little extra drama.
I mean, I think they're one of the highest rated, like, red zone teams in the league, but they had, like, obviously their hiccups last week, but I don't know. I think
they've struggled to just get into the red zone.
That's the
honestly.
thing. They're great in the red zone. It's just those other 80 yards that they struggle with. That's they got to figure out.
It's ridiculous that it takes so long. But yeah, I don't think that's changed dramatically. I think if I'm not mistaken, I think maybe now they're like 2. They're number 2 in the league in red zone scoring. They were number 1, but again, it hasn't changed so dramatically. It's just the getting to that area. Fanny with a 10 bomb. Appreciate that, Fanny. Milata always gives us a minimum 2 to 3 penalties per game pre-snap and after, which makes all of our positive yardage moot. Pro Bowl player or not, he's not exempt from the same scrutiny AJ gets. I'm just saying. It's totally fair. I mean, Milata has been actually very honest about it. You watch most of his press conference afterwards and the breakdowns with the media, and he'll call it like it is. I mean, he's not afraid to say, and he's said multiple times this year, he's been like, that was a terrible game. That was maybe the worst game I've played. I got to be better. We can't have those penalties. That was my mistake. But yeah, he's had penalties there, and it's been definite issues. So I don't know. It's ridiculous that, and it's not just Milata, but it is ridiculous the level and amount of penalties that we have, especially in, like, crucial situations where we're all scratching our head and going, like, how is this possible? Why did this keep happening?
For the record, I just went back and looked at my predictions. This was from back in May. I had them at 7-3 at this point, but the losses I had them having were to the Lions, Packers, and Vikings. So obviously they won all 3 of those games.
So hey, we're good. Yeah. I had us losing to the Bucks, and then Lions, and then Bills, and I think I had us losing to Dallas. Yeah, I think I did, because I was like, I hate it. But just it's very rare that there's a season sweep. So I think I did have Dallas too, but I had 4 losses, the 13-4. But beat the Bucks, beat the Lions. So, be happy to be proved wrong.
As many people probably remember, I had them going 11-6. So that looks like it's going to be wrong.
Hopefully you're very wrong. And by the way, I will talk about it in depth in terms of the game preview, but I will be picking the Eagles to win. So this is the point where when we say, hey, here's our season predictions, right, for the schedule and the record, it doesn't always make sense if you go by our game-by-game predictions. So it doesn't hold true necessarily to say, which 6 games are we going to predict the opposing team? It changes week by week, but like Anthony said a second ago, if you got the defense like it is, it's hard to go against that. Just erase the system with a 10 bomb. Appreciate that. Says, I think this year's defense has the potential to be even better than last year's, and last year's was insane. Offense, please get it together. Lord have mercy. Go Birds.
Yeah, and I was actually listening to the PHLY today, and Fran Duffy was doing his he usually does like his film reviews on Tuesdays for them, and he was talking about how he said this game especially, it's like their performance against the Packers was good, but this game especially reminded him of last year's defense, because he said even the way Drew Makuba was like communicating, and then you saw the guys just dropping in coverage, and then zone, they were able to like pass off the receivers and things like that. Like he said, their communication was the best that it's been all season in this game against the Lions. So if that keeps trending in the right direction, maybe my guy Adoree Jackson will have a revenge game against the Cowboys after getting toasted in week 1. So that would be I mean, I'm already
Remember
enjoying
now.
people kind of turning a page now on Adoree Jackson. I saw people praising him after he got some pass deflections and was covering Amon Ra St. Brown. I was like,
There's some more belief.
this is great. But now this test is going to be the big one because obviously we saw what Dallas did last night, and we'll see if the Eagles can kind of keep him in check this time around too.
It is funny though because obviously I don't know. You look at it and say, as far as and again, I'm gonna get to these other super chats, so don't worry. I see some of those comments there. But as far as you just look at the group, and we said this back in the offseason, it was like, oh hey, the defense could be better. It took some time for them to fully get acclimated and adjustments and maybe some injuries or other stuff. But I did get a kick out of Vic Fangio's presser, and he's mentioned it multiple times, but he referenced it again of saying, the old adage of, you get, it's what, every rookie you start is essentially a loss. You can kind of count it in the loss column. So, the Eagles, you give some blame to the offense. I don't know if it works necessarily this way, but the Eagles having 2 starters at some point, N'Kobe's kind of taken that over from Jahad Campbell, but Drew Makuba, Jahad Campbell, and the Eagles being with only 2 losses.
So what you're saying is 15-2.
I'm just saying, and I don't know. I'll just float this also out there too. Does the stash need to come back for the offense? Last year it was just to get some sort of win streak in general. But I've started to see more comments recently of hey, we got to get the rally stash going. I don't know. Does that help us in some sort of way? If anybody believes in that thing, let me know in the comments.
I looked back to some of the videos from last season too, and I had that terrible chin strap beard that I can bring back if people want me to, but I know a lot of people did not want to look at that either. So there were a lot of comments roasting my I don't know, prepubescent facial hair that I have here. But
we are willing to. This is what we're saying. We're going on record. Anthony and I are willing to sacrifice, and therefore our wives are willing to sacrifice to put up with a specific look if it helps us get the win and gets things right back on track. So just putting that out there. Brian, appreciate that, man, says the defense is fire, but with all the talent we have on the offense, we should be putting up 30 to 40 points per game. O-line and KP factor in big, but the offense looks flat and deflated. What else is going on? It's kind of all those disconnects that we've been talking about. O-line's a factor, KP's a factor, players not giving effort, some injuries. I think some players having lingering effects of injuries more than what they're giving credit for, or more than they're admitting to. Everyone's injured, obviously, so you just push through it. But it's a lot of that. And I know that Jalen Hurts does not believe in momentum. There's something to be said for that. I think you have a couple games if they could get something, but then the penalties are the other part of it. They're drive killers. The Eagles are the worst on third downs, and they have the most 3 and outs in the league. But it's not even as much. Yes, it's technically okay. They don't convert their third down, but it's really the first and second down plays that they are at that category, because they're just getting negative plays or penalties of so many times. We're like, oh, here's a 3rd and 10, or here's a 3rd and 15, or 3rd and 12, just because of penalties, and they haven't been able to get anything the first couple downs. Where last season you think about, sure, they did have those ups and downs, the ebbs and flows. They weren't actually as good in the red zone, but it was a lot more of oh, we're at a 3rd down. What is it now? It's 3rd and 3. Okay, that's a lot more manageable. Instead of we have way too many of these 3rd and 10s, and now we got to take a shot or throw something, a lot further down the field. And yeah, the passing game has had its own struggles to begin with. So it's a lot. Got IBH with a 2. We beat Dallas without Carter, BG. We would beat Dallas without Carter, Nolan, BG, and Phillips. And now we're going to get those. So it's a good point.
It's going to look a lot different this time around. But like I said,
that it is.
The Cowboys have also added players too. So it's going to look like, I feel like both offenses are pretty much the same outside of maybe the Eagles' injuries on the offensive line. But the defenses have both added playmakers. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out this week.
Yep. Definitely an exciting game. It will be. They're wearing Kelly green jerseys. So, we said here too, willing to go with the stash or a different look, if that will help us. But the Eagles are doing the same thing. The Eagles are undefeated with the Kelly greens, and the last time that they wore those Kelly greens, we needed an offensive explosion, and we had one. So, am I saying that we're going to have two 100-yard rushers like happened earlier this year? No. But could we score, dare I say 30? I should probably start at 20, but,
I'll say, can we break 20?
30?
I'll take breaking 20.
Yeah, that'd be a good starting point, but 30 would be great. If we could do that, that'd be fantastic. D-Nice with a 5. I think Hurts is part of the problem. Hasn't been the same since 22, carried by Saquon last year. Has a few good games here and there. Okay. We're going to absolutely agree to disagree with you on that one. We appreciate the contribution for the 5 and your comment being read there. I can't imagine that there's a lot of people that agree with you. There's a couple that I've seen, but not a lot, and that is the most ridiculous thing that I've heard because he's played the best when the lights are brightest. He's the best player in both Super Bowls that he's been in. He's won games. He's had ups and downs, but like, what are we doing here? There's so many other counter arguments to be said of quarterbacks who, people, we got power rankings of quarterbacks who were in different positions. Justin Herbert's such a good my gosh, he might be the most gifted quarterback out there. He's so great. 81 yards. Team got destroyed. Can't win a playoff game. When the lights are bright, he shrinks back. He turns the ball over. So, like I said, appreciate the support.
You can't use the carried by Saquon Barkley excuse, especially this year.
This year, yeah,
hasn't been good either. He's under. But
under even last year,
carry, I think. Yeah.
Like, again, please tell me in the Super Bowl, how was he carried by Saquon? Please tell me, and the defense played phenomenal. Sure. But the Eagles still had to score those points. Like, they put up, what was it, offensively, 33 points because the defense got the defensive touchdown. 33 points. Got the job done. Just saying. Anyway, that's probably a Cowboys fan. Little troll coming in here. We know. Damien's with a 5. I've won 3 custom jerseys off the Green Bay game and Detroit. Let's go. I don't know how. There's no further follow-up to that comment, but Damien's won 3 custom jerseys. Is that like a bet with like a buddy of getting those custom jerseys, or I'm kind of curious what happened there. Leaving me hanging here with this news. Custom jerseys, won those off of the games. Okay, well, if you took the alts point spread and put, they have like outlandish bets that you can take and everything else there, but sometimes, for a point total that was set at like 47, and you take the alt spread and go, I'm going to go under 20 for the Green Bay game. Like plus 4,000. No, in no world is it going to be under 20, and but some people can make a good buck on that. Flipping the Bird, what's up? How's it going? Can't stand, was that Green Bay, by the way? Can't stand WIP. They thrive on chaos. Hurts is a winner, and they can't stand it. Hilarious. Cowboys is a trap game, fellas. Good test for the best defense in the league. Offense will finally click in Dallas.
Maybe that dome will help get them, because they're going to enjoy getting out of the elements after these last 2 weeks.
That is true.
Maybe getting inside might warm up the offense. They'll be a little hotter to start the game. Obviously, going against a less talented defense will help as well. I know they looked really good against the Raiders, and apparently top 10 quarterback Geno Smith, depending on who you ask about him, ranked ahead of Jalen Hurts in some rankings.
That's ridiculous.
That's a whole nother conversation that we could have another time. But yeah, I think this, like you said, this could be like that get right game for the offense, but I'm setting the bar so insanely low. We're like, just give me like 20 points, and then we can talk from there.
There we go. We'd be happy about that. Damon's, by the way, said bet with coworkers. So just a follow up to that comment, but got 3 custom jerseys for that. Good for you. Good for you. Taking advantage of them for their hatred of the Eagles. Anthony, at least it was just a custom jersey. I'm seeing other comments here of people thinking about like betting their house, maybe, or I don't know. Just gamble responsibly if you're doing that. Anthony with a 5. At some point, all these 3 and outs are going to kill the defense's energy. Then, boom, another great collapse. KP, do better. Don't waste this defense.
Yeah, that's what you're hoping for, right? Is that these last 2 weeks was like rock bottom for the offense. And I know I've said it before for anybody that's been tuned in this whole time, that you just hope that this, like, it can't get much worse than this, because it's basically been back-to-back the worst offensive performances under Nick Sirianni's tenure as head coach. So If it continues to get worse somehow, I mean, I don't even know what you would do. But if this is rock bottom and they improve to, like I said, even an average offense, then things should be looking much, much better in Philadelphia.
It is crazy that somehow the Eagles still had 35 minutes time of possession against Detroit. It's like the offense played awful. We all know that, but 35 minutes. So at least they were giving them some sort of a break. But I mean, yes, Anthony is correct in that assessment. If there's way too many of these 3 and outs and it keeps going the same way, it does feel like it's not impossible for them to make a really deep run and even go to the Super Bowl and do that. But it does feel like you need a little more contribution from this offense to ultimately get the job done. Kenneth with a 5. Is it me, or were some of the Lions wide receivers wide open? D-line tips and pressures saved us a bit. Dallas might feast. I don't know, boys. Side note, feel kind of bad for KP. Yes, accurate on that. You watch the film back. They were open. But I guess the other side of that is like, okay, yes, they were open, but the Eagles defense still made plays. And, they talked about, Jordan Davis brought it up. They saw on tape that Goff has more of a sidearm release a lot of times, a lower release. And so they felt like they could get to those balls and bat more passes down. Not saying that, hey, coverage should have been better. Secondary can't hold up, shouldn't hold up. But ultimately, I mean, the defense, you give them credit for making those plays. The Lions did not convert because the defense held up. Now, is it worse against Dallas? We'll see. Dak has played historically very well against Philadelphia in most games, so it will be a contest. It will be a challenge. I'm not knocking that, but I never like the discredit a defense for making plays of that magnitude to say, oh, but there were wide open receivers, because it wasn't luck that Jordan Davis and JC went all Dikembe Mutombo on the Lions.
Yeah, that was definitely something that they literally said that they talked about, where they knew he had that lower kind of launch angle, and they knew he was going to try and get the ball out quick. So if they weren't going to be able to get to him, they had to jump up and get their hands up to try and disrupt those passing lanes. Because I think even the Cooper DeJean interception, I saw somebody highlight on the All-22 that one of the receivers or whatever was just completely uncovered. They didn't obviously get the ball, but like, you can go and nitpick that all day. You could even do that when the Eagles are on offense. There are plenty of times that they have players running open that either Jalen Hurts doesn't see, or he gets rattled and now he leaves that read and goes somewhere else. So you could play the hypothetical game all day long. But the fact is, obviously, at the end of the day, what happened, like what actually took place on the field, is what matters. Can they get exposed by Dallas potentially through the air? Absolutely. But I also think that they're going to also go back and see the mistakes that they made and kind of try to correct those things too. So we'll see what happens. But like I said, at the end of the day, you can only go by what actually took place on the field.
Yeah, and we're confident in him. Damien's with a 2. I said it from earlier, but just put it on the screen. Yes, the bet with the coworkers. So good for you. Got that dub. I think that we've covered the vast majority here, and obviously went a little bit longer than I anticipated, but lots to cover. And I think as we were texting back and forth, that's not a surprise from getting into all the info. But you need to get some rest, because we didn't get you back to 100%. Shout out to Anthony. Everybody make sure to follow him if you're not, at DiBona NFL. The PhillySpecialShow.com. All the articles, news, insights, everything that you need to stay up to date from the Ant-Man. And playing injured, still performing out here. So we appreciate that.
I'm trying my best. And I guess we'll touch on it in a video, or I might write about it. But the Eagles did bring in Zach Pascal, former Eagles receiver, for a workout today.
That's right. Yes.
So maybe they'll sign him practice squad, 53-man roster, as kind of like that Johnny Wilson dirty work wide receiver. But nothing too crazy, but maybe something else that could potentially benefit them.
We could certainly use a little bit more blocking. It can't be worse than Grant Calcaterra, as we will maybe wrap on that one. Shout out to Grant. A little
keep a lookout for that low light compilation.
Low light compilation. Yes, we'll make sure and share that around if and when that thing pops up. So stay tuned. Again, appreciate all you guys getting close to 147,000 subs. Say it a million times. Won't get tired of saying it. Can't be possible without you guys. Drop a like on your way out. And the ticket giveaway, by the way, I mentioned this too. The game recap video, ticket giveaway. Make sure to comment on that one. I will spin for it on an upcoming live stream, and also share on video, so you won't miss it. People were asking about, hey, where do I see if it's? You don't have to be present for the ticket giveaways following Eagles win. I will post it. If I don't hear from the person, I'll share it in multiple videos. So don't worry. Good luck to everybody. We're not playing favorites though, so it's the randomized spinner. We're not choosing anybody. But all right, that does it for us. Appreciate it. Have a great rest of the night. Go Birds.
Go Birds.